Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review to Everton's 2-0 defeat to Manchester United last night in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. Carlo Ancelotti's Everton thrown out of the Carabao Cup after a very, very disappointing night at Goodison Park. It was all set up to be the fairy tale Christmas present that we all wanted, but it just didn't happen, did it really? We were really, really poor. The squad depth is atrocious, but that's nothing that we didn't know already. The performance was poor, and ultimately Manchester United were the better side. Were they helped by some dreadful refereeing decisions? Yes, of course they were, as they usually are, but that's no excuse for how we performed. We were absolutely battered for the opening 25 minutes. I don't even think we had more than 5 touches of the ball at any one time. And then, okay, we come back into the game a little bit and we started to slow it down. But even when we did that, we didn't really look like threatening. We didn't really look like, we were going to get at Manchester United. There wasn't an awful lot of creativity in the side. We did create the odd sort of half chance, but again, nothing really come of it. I mean, did we even have a shot at Dean Henderson at any point in the game other than a Dominic Calvert-Lewin header? That's the only one I can really remember. And it's a really, really disappointing performance and disappointing game to talk about, because ultimately, again, I said it leading up to in the preview to this game, is we're not a club that can just throw competitions away. We're not a club that can just say, oh, we don't want to win that, we don't want to win this, oh, it's all right, we'll throw the youngsters out. And the reality of the situation is that Manchester United made 9 changes to their starting 11 yesterday from the side that played Leeds in the Premier League just a couple of days ago. They had the likes of Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford on the bench to bring on at any one time to either change the game if it wasn't going their way, or to just completely shut out the opposition if they needed to, to go on and win the game. And ultimately they did. They needed to win the game. It was the last 10 or 15 minutes. Everton was still in it, and they brought those two on. And again, look at the difference between that and Everton yesterday. We made 3 changes to our starting 11 and we look like a completely different side. Where was the organisation in the opening 20 minutes that we saw against Leicester, that we saw against Chelsea, that we saw against Arsenal? Where was that, defensive structure? It just completely went out the window. Where was the creativity on the counter-attack? Again, there was nothing. And then you look at our bench with 25, 30 minutes to go, and you're wanting to bring somebody on to change the game, and you need somebody to come on and have an effect, and there's just nobody that can do it. We bring on Bernard, who hasn't put in a decent performance for I don't know how long. I mean, he had a good half an hour against Manchester United in the Premier League a few weeks back, but other than that, I can't remember the last decent Everton performance he put in for 90 minutes. Bring on Cenk Tosun, who shouldn't be anywhere near this squad. I understand that they're wanting to, move him on and need somebody to come in for him, but why is he coming on in games of football? What does Cenk Tosun show that can convince you that he's going to come on and change a game? And like I said, I'm not Carlo Ancelotti. I don't watch these players insane every week. Cenk Tosun might be banging them in for fun every week, insane, but he's featured in a lot of games now in recent times where he's come off the bench, or he's been brought on to try and affect the game, and he just can't do it because he's just not good enough to do it. And that's the difference ultimately. That's the difference between that Manchester United side yesterday and that Everton side yesterday. And it's not the end of the world. Look, it's not a Premier League game. We're still won 3 out of 3 in the Premier League over the last week or so. Big game against Sheffield United now, and it is a massive game. And you might be sitting there thinking, oh, they haven't won a league game all season. That'll be dead easy. That it won't be dead easy, and it won't be dead easy for that reason that we saw yesterday. Is because beyond our best starting 11, we are poor. Our squad depth is really, really poor beyond that starting 11, and that's very, very worrying when you've got players like James Rodriguez still out injured, Alan still out injured, Luca Dean still out injured, Richarlison, who, got a nasty injury yesterday through awful play by Fernandes and Bailey. Who knows whether he'll be fit to play against Sheffield United on Saturday. He come out on Twitter yesterday and he said that he's okay, and Carlo said that he's fine, but with head injuries, the doctors like to be very, very careful with these players, so he mightn't be available to start on Saturday. And then you take Richarlison out, and again you missed that bulk of creativity. And I said it in the instant match reaction, look, Richarlison didn't have necessarily a great game yesterday. He wasn't unbelievable, he wasn't creating a plethora of chances, he was getting behind a couple of times, but he was quite wasteful. But one thing with Richarlison is that there's always that sort of chance that in a split second he can change a game. he can always just turn it on whenever he needs to. We've seen it against Leeds. He got down that, not against Leeds, sorry, against Leicester. He got down that left-hand side, he cut it on his right foot, and he buried it bottom corner. And that's what Richarlison can produce. He can produce those moments of magic when you need them. And Manchester United knew that, and ultimately Bruno Fernandes knew that, and that's why he barged them into Eric Bailly, because he knew that there wasn't one other Everton player on that pitch who could change that game. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, yes, but his performances recently have been through the service that he's received, the balls coming into the box, the creativity, the balls, making their way to him. There was none of that yesterday. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin always tends to have quiet games when there's no creativity, when nobody's gifting him opportunities, and he still works hard and he still digs deep and he gets himself involved, and that's fair enough. But he's not really a striker at the moment that can pick the ball up himself, run at players and create or score a goal in that type of situation. And that's something that Dominic Calvert-Lewin needs to improve on. We've all seen that over the last few weeks or so, and we've all assessed that. We've seen it yesterday. There was a moment when he picked the ball up, he was running at 2-3 Manchester United players, and he got the ball caught between his feet and he had to pass it out wide to Iwobi. Now, again, ideally, he'd just be running straight at them there into the box and either winning a foul or having a shot on goal, but he doesn't do that. And you know what? Dom's improved massively over the last few years, so I'm not going to sit here and have a go at him because of that, because I've got every faith that Dominic Calvert-Lewin will learn and start to run at players and take players on and be that striker who can make something out of nothing, but it's just not yet. So when you take Richarlison out of the team, who is the only real player that can do that for Everton, or certainly could yesterday, again, all they had to do then is stop the balls into Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and we had nothing. We had absolutely nothing, and that's the worrying thing, I suppose. It's not specifically or necessarily worrying that we were beaten by this Manchester United side, because they've got a lot of quality and they're on fantastic form. Manchester United, it was an awful time to play them. They're flying at the moment. It's the fact that, okay, it was a cup competition and we're still doing well in the league, but we are only ever 1 or 2 changes away from being a bang average side who anybody can beat. Our starting 11, brilliant, absolutely fantastic, yeah. With the back four at the start of the season of Mina, Keane, Dean and Coleman, James, Richarlison and Dom up front, Alam and Decore through the middle. Yeah, it's great. Make a couple of changes in that team. Maybe bring, Holgate in for Coleman, or Godfrey in if you want a bit of more of a defensive structure rather than that attacking prowess going forward. Yeah, that worked as well. But when you start taking players like Alan out the team, it just leaves massive gaps. And there isn't one Everton player in that squad at that club who can come on and do what Alan does and replace Alan and bring the same amount of quality as Alan does. And that's really, really worrying, because not many teams have like for like sort of changes in every single position, but a lot of decent Premier League sides, especially those fighting towards the top of the table, especially those that'll be fighting for trophies and titles come the end of the season, will have 2 very good players in each position, so that when one has to come out through injury, another one can just slot in and do it. It mightn't do the exact same job, but he can do a decent job at something else. We haven't got that. We simply haven't got that. You take Alan out the team, and what, you're replacing him with an Andre Gomez who turns like the number 19 bus, or you're putting Tom Davis in there who works dead hard and gets himself involved, but let's be honest, he's nowhere near as good a footballer as Alan. You take Richarlison out, who you're bringing on, Bernard, who is not consistent whatsoever, and he might run at a couple of players every now and then, but no creativity, no end product whatsoever at all. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think, has played every game this season so far, near enough every minute of every game. What are we going to do if Dominic Calvert-Lewin picks up a hamstring injury, or he has to come out the team for a period of time, replace him with Cenk Tosun? It's very, very, very worrying, and this is where Marcel Brands earns his money for me. And Marcel Brands earned his money in the summer. We had a very, very good summer. We brought in, 4 very good players, and a lonely goalkeeper who's done okay since he's been here. But Marcel Brands has got an awful lot more to do with this Everton squad, and that's it. It's the squad. The team, yeah, fine. When everyone's fit, very good, and we'll beat most teams if we're performing. But beyond that, when you get to these periods in the season like December, where you're playing 3 times a week, where you're playing, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and players are picking up hamstring injuries, and players are picking up fatigue, and players are needing a rest, let alone the injuries. We've got James Rodriguez, Alan, and Luca Dean out injured currently. Let alone the injuries. Players will need a rest. Players will need to be taken out of this team on the basis that He's played a lot of games recently, and I just want to give him a rest. Carlo's already said it about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He said it a week ago, I think, just before the Chelsea game. There's going to come a time where I need to take Dominic Calvert-Lewin out of this team to give him a rest, because he's played an awful lot of games and we don't want to risk an injury. How can you take Dominic Calvert-Lewin out of this Everton team? Who do you bring in to replace him? Which Everton player comes in and we all go, yeah, we can allow Dom to have a rest because he's going to step in and do the business. Cenk Tosun will fill a space, but he won't do anything. Same with Richarlison. When Richarlison's not injured, he has to play. We haven't got the luxury to say, well, he can sit on the bench for, a game or so. Because, yeah, you can replace him with Bernard, but Bernard's going to offer you not even a tenth of what Richarlison offers you on the pitch. And that's where, when you start to pick up injuries, it becomes worrying. And ultimately, Manchester United made 9 changes to their starting 11 yesterday and still put in a performance very similar to the one that they did against Leeds, certainly within that first 25 minutes. Even the players that didn't start that game against Leeds knew what to do, knew how they were playing, knew that they needed to come forward, throw everything at us. We made 3 changes and looked like a completely different side. And that was because the changes that we made, again, certainly the one in midfield, Andre Gomez coming in, it's not good enough. Even the Arsenal game, which we won, and it was a very good performance, and we dug deep, and we beat a side that are in poor form. You could still see the difference that not having Alan in that team makes. We were a little bit all over the place at times in that game against Arsenal last Saturday, and the game against Chelsea, we weren't like that. The first half against Leicester, we weren't like that because we had somebody like Alan who's got so much quality and so much composure in the middle. And ultimately, that's the worry for Everton at the moment, is that our squad isn't good enough to challenge in the Carabao Cup and the Premier League and the FA Cup. Now, what we have to hope is that we come out on Saturday and we beat a Sheffield United side who have been dreadful this season and haven't won a game at all. And that's the expectation. I don't care how bad the performance was yesterday. The expectation is we beat this Sheffield United side. Will it be easy? Absolutely not. They are desperate for their first win in the Premier League. Again, they'll be looking at the performance that we put in against Manchester United, and they'll be looking at how they can beat us, but we have to go out and win. We win that game, we make it 4 wins on the bounce in the Premier League, and we're in a very, very good position, and you sort of just think, right, okay, well, you put the cup game behind you. But again, it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to... if we'd won the FA Cup 3 years ago, and we'd won the Carabao Cup 4 years ago, and we were in the finals last year, I'd go, you know what? It's a disappointing performance and we want to win every trophy, but whatever, move on, we'll focus on the league this season. We haven't won a trophy in, 25 years? We haven't won a trophy in my lifetime. I've never seen Everton win a trophy. And it feels so horrible. Even when it's not the end of the world, even when it's so blatantly clear that it's just that we haven't got the squad to perform in multiple different competitions, certainly not with injuries and players needing to come off and have a rest. Even when there's those reasons, it's still absolutely horrible to see a performance like that, because we know as fans deep down this club is desperate for a trophy, absolutely desperate for a trophy. I said at the start of the season I would take a mid-table finish and a cup this season. If you'd have said to me, would you rather finish 6th, Cam, or 10th with a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup? I'd take 10th with a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup. I've seen fans say they'd take 17th, just avoiding relegation with a trophy. Now, I think that's a bit of a stretch because that would show that we haven't progressed much. But that's the point is, we are so desperate for the trophy, we'd rather prioritise that than league position. Now, we have to prioritise league position now. I know we've got the FA Cup coming up in January and we play Rotherham and, that's another cut run that we can go on. But for now, we have to prioritise. And we can only prioritise the league and getting as many points as we possibly can. And I just hope that performance yesterday doesn't have an effect on the performance on Saturday against Sheffield United. And ultimately, I hope that Richarlison is fit and available to play and gets the pass from the doctors. I hope that James is back and available to play. I hope that I know Alan and Luca Dean are very unlikely to be back, but I hope that very, very soon they're back and available to play, because ultimately we haven't got the depth to be able to just chop and change. And when you've got 3 key players, all right for sides like Liverpool, who, Jurgen Klopp will moan every single week about injuries and how they're the most hard done by and how they've got 45 injuries in the under-23s. So that means that they're, it's right that they're struggling, this, that, the other. But ultimately, teams like Liverpool, Man City, Man United, they've got the ability to make 7, 8, 9 changes in a starting 11 and still put out a team that's good enough to get a result against most, because they've got that quality. Like I said, look at their bench yesterday. Even the players that, okay, Martial and Rashford would usually start, but Pogba and Van de Beek wouldn't usually start. I'd love to have somebody like a Van de Beek sitting on my bench. Daniel James, yeah, he hasn't got an awful lot of quality, but what does he do? He runs riot. He runs absolute riot, and he's got pace to burn, and he will... Ultimately, if you bring somebody like Daniel James on in the 75th minute, he will worry opposition players because he's just going to run at you. We will get into the live comments in a minute, by the way. Obviously, we'll get into talking about the game. If you are enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. It's Christmas Eve, so we are going to try and keep a level head and add some sort of positivity into it, because it is Christmas Eve. It's Christmas tomorrow. We have to be positive. It's been a dreadful year, and I refuse to let Everton ruin the one day in the year that everyone is uber positive. Kev says you're nuts, Cam, taking the Kangaroo Cup over 6th place. Well, yeah, and that's because we need a trophy. We absolutely need a trophy. And you might say, well, look at the league position, look at long term, look at, the future rather than look at, the bigger picture rather than the smaller picture. But I just can't sit there and go, well, it's only the Carabao Cup, whatever, because we're so desperate, and it's another opportunity that we had to go further in the competition. Manchester United pulled Manchester City in the semi-final, which was always going to happen. We knew that. They didn't even need to be a draw. I could have told you that prior to the game against United, that if we win, we will be facing Manchester City. But I just think it's disappointing. I do. Kev says, I don't think Liverpool have a deep squad. Well, maybe not them, but teams like City, Man United, like player for player, players that can come in and directly replace the players that are coming out, that still add something to the team. Man City have got a brilliant team. Then they've got the likes of Gabriel Jesus, who I know he started more recently, but usually they can bring off the bench. Fernan Torres, they can bring off the bench. Bernardo Silva, they can bring off the bench. Gundogan, they can bring off the bench. They've got so much quality that they can chop and change, and they can use in times like this, that it's horrible to look at ours and think, and like I said, I say this every week, by the way, even at the games that we won a couple of games ago, I said, this team best add work, this starting 11 best add work, because if it doesn't work, there's nobody on that bench that's going to come on and change this game for us. There's not one player that I look at and think, I'm confident you can come on. I know some people have spoke about Anthony Gordon, and that's fair enough, and he hasn't had this opportunity, but where's the truth in that Anthony Gordon's going to come on and change the game? Where's the evidence in that? There's not evidence in that. He may do, and he deserves to be given as much of an opportunity as the others, but there's no clear proof that that's going to happen. Anyway, let's get into the game then. Everton started poorly, really, really poorly, come under a lot of pressure in the first opening 15-20 minutes, and that was to be expected, to be fair. What I didn't expect is how poorly Everton dealt with that pressure. I knew Manchester United were going to come out. They were going to fly out. Look at the way they did against Leeds. They'd won the Leeds game within 10 minutes. They'd scored 3 goals. They'd scored 2 in 3 minutes. We knew exactly what was going to happen. They were going to fly out at us, all guns blazing, and ultimately try and kill the game off very, very early. Now, obviously, we didn't concede early on, so some would say, well, we dealt with that pressure well. And I know Carlo Ancelotti spoke about how he believed we did that, but there just didn't seem to be as much organisation as there has been recently. It wasn't like, right, okay, they're going to throw everything at us, but we're just going to get everything away. Nothing's going to trouble us. They had 3 or 4 clear chances there that they could have scored. They could have been 4-0 up at half-time. How they weren't 1-0 up at half-time is beyond me. Mason Greenwood has a header which just flashes past the post. Alex Telles has a header which just flashes past the post. Paul Pogba standing free from a corner and heads straight into Robin Olsen. It's an absolute sitter. They had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity in that first 25 minutes. Michael Keane made a couple of really, really bad decisions on the ball. Robin Olsen made a really bad decision on the ball and got away with it because Edinson Cavani just couldn't get his feet together. And ultimately, again, okay, we didn't concede in that period of time, but we weren't as composed. We looked panicky, to be honest. It looked like there was a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of nerves going into this game, and it's a Carabao Cup quarter-final at Goodison Park with an opportunity to be one game away from a final. Is it beyond the realms of possibility that these players were nervous and that these players were anxious going into this game? No, I was at home shitting myself, but that's why I'm at home shitting myself watching it, not getting paid as much as they're getting paid. We just looked like we were panicking. and we just couldn't deal with that high Manchester United pressure from early on. But we dealt with it. Again, you'd say arguably luckily, and, we were very fortunate to not concede in that period of time, but we dealt with it. We sort of took it under our wing a little bit, and we just sort of weathered the storm. And then we quieted it down 25 minutes, 30 minutes in. We sort of quietened it down a little bit. We became more comfortable on the ball. We stopped panicking. That was the problem with Everton yesterday, is that when Manchester United had the ball in that opening 25 minutes, they were getting at us, they were throwing everything at us, and we were making stupid defensive mistakes. We were allowing them to get behind us. We were allowing them far too much space. We were allowing Bruno Fernandes to control that game. And ultimately, Carlo Ancelotti come out on I'm getting my days mixed up. Carlo Ancelotti come out on Tuesday in the pre-game press conference and said, practically, if you allow Bruno Fernandes to control the game, you will lose the game, because he is that good. What did we do in the first 20 minutes? We practically said to him, yeah, you run round there, you go and you bring that ball and you pass it to him and you do whatever you want. And we saw the effects of that. They were getting at us, they were pressing at us, they were creating chances. So defensively and structurally, we were a shambles in that first 20 minutes. An absolute shambles. I don't know what happened to the team from the side that looked so defensively strong in the last 3 Premier League games. But the one thing that, again, frustrates me just as much as that is when we had the ball and when we had possession, we're so sloppy with it. We just give it away far too easily. It's like you're in a game where you've got a side who are constantly pressuring you and constantly, 110% right at you. When you get the ball in that game, the first thing we should have been doing is slowing that game down to the way we wanted to play it and the tempo in which we wanted to play it. But we didn't. We were just panicking. We were giving the ball away. We were kicking it out. We were giving it back to them. And it was almost like we were saying, oh, you've lost the ball there. Yeah, I'll have it back and come at us again. And that was the case for the first 25, 30 minutes. The times that we did touch the ball, we were just awful with it. We were so sloppy. And again, it was so disappointing. But 25, 30 minutes in, we settled it down a little bit. We started to become a little bit more composed. We were playing nice passes together. Gylfi Sigurdsson got in for the first chance of the game. Really, really neat feet down that left-hand side. Managed to get a shot away, but it was blocked. And then we started to grow in confidence a little bit. I'd say we were the better team in the final 15 minutes of the half, to be perfectly honest with you, because we were the team that were controlling the ball and we'd slowed it down to the way in which we wanted to play. And Man United looked like they struggled to keep up that high intensity, high press, because when they'd done that against Leeds, they'd already won the game 10 minutes in, so they didn't have to keep it up. Whereas you could say we weathered the storm. I'd say we sort of went out and found a shelter and just stood under it and hoped that nothing had happened. But we either way, we didn't concede in that opening 25 minutes. And then we sort of slowed the game down to our pace. We started to control the ball a lot more. We looked a bit more organised. We were getting forward. We were creating the half chance. But it's those times in a game where you've been absolutely battered for 25 minutes and you're starting to get a bit of the ball and you're starting to find your way through, that you're crying out for somebody with creativity, that you're crying out for somebody to get you a goal up and just completely change the game, turn it on its head, knock their confidence. And we didn't have that. We were creating the odd half chance, we were playing the ball nicely, but ultimately it was ending up in a corner or a throw-in or, a wide shot. Nothing really troubled Dean Henderson yesterday. Nothing troubled him whatsoever. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a header, I think, I can't remember if it was the first half or the second half, from a corner. Other than that, nothing troubled Dean Henderson whatsoever. He had one of the easiest games he'll play in his career. And that's so poor. And that's where we lack the likes of James Rodriguez. And I put a tweet out yesterday and I spoke about how much we miss James Rodriguez. And the replies were, well, what about Dean? What about Alan? Obviously, we miss Alan. Obviously, it's so evidently clear the hole that he leaves in that midfield when he's not in there. The work rate, the energy, the pitbull mentality of just getting in, throwing your tackles in, getting involved. It's so desperately missed. Even when we beat Arsenal on Saturday, you could see how desperately we missed Alan in that midfield. Obviously, we miss Alan. Obviously, we miss the creativity of Luca Dean. Yes, Ben Godfrey's done a fantastic job, and defensively he's been absolutely brilliant. But going forward, he doesn't offer you anywhere near as much as Luca Dean does, and we know that. But those players we're all in agreement with. We all sit here every week and we say, oh, we miss Luca Dean loads, or we miss Alan and how important he is. There was actually Everton fans questioning whether we need James Rodriguez 2 or 3 weeks ago. After we beat Chelsea, and certainly after we beat Leicester, I was seeing tweets and comments and fans saying, oh, are we better without James? Do we really need James Rodriguez? We have to sacrifice a lot for James Rodriguez. ultimately, we have to sacrifice that work rate down the right-hand side. And I think that needs to be changed. I think James needs to be brought into the midfield so you can have a winger on the right-hand side, be it Alex Iwobi or somebody else coming in the summer or January, and you've still got that work rate, but you've got James' creativity. We do sacrifice a lot when James is on the field in terms of defensive capabilities, but as Carlo Ancelotti said, he's not there to defend. He is absolutely not there to defend. We shouldn't be looking at James Rodriguez going, you're not defending today, you're the reason why we've lost. When we've got 3 central midfielders who should be defending, and a back line who should be defending, and a winger on the other side of the pitch, Richarlison, who does an awful lot of defensive work. I'm sorry, but we can afford to have one player who isn't brilliant at defending in this team. Not saying he's excused if he doesn't work hard or if he doesn't get involved, that's no excuse. But we can afford to have one player, especially a player of the ability of James Rodriguez. We can afford to be able to sort of wash away the fact that defensively he's not absolutely brilliant. And again, like Carlo Ancelotti said a few weeks back, we didn't bring him in to defend. And what we saw yesterday, when we sort of calmed the play down and when we had the ball in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the first half, is that Dominic Calvert-Lewin was getting nothing into him, so he was pretty much out the game. Nobody else was really taking responsibility, and we just didn't really have any creativity. So although we looked comfortable and we looked a lot better than we did in the opening 10 or 15 minutes, we really didn't threaten Manchester United whatsoever, and that would have gained their confidence, because they'd have looked at it at half time and thought, right, okay, we had them on the ropes in the opening 20 minutes, and we were very unlucky to not score. And even when they had the ball and they started to slow it down to their pace and they started to control the game, you might say, they didn't create anything from it. Nothing come from it. So we know that we don't really need to worry about that. And that's when they might have said, target the key man, target Richarlison, who's the only player that can turn something out of nothing into something in an instant. And that's where we so desperately need James Rodriguez. And it's absolutely laughable that that some people think we don't need him, or do we need him in this team? We absolutely need him in this team. His creativity is so sorely missed. Yes, we need Alan back. Yes, we need Luka Dean back. I understand that. But creative-wise, even in the Arsenal game, James Rodriguez would have had a field day against that Arsenal team. An absolute field day. We missed that player who sees the pass that nobody else sees. We miss that player who we score and we go, hang on, how did that even happen? And then you watch the replay and James has made a brilliant world-class pass that not even any of us watching the game on television or watching the game in the stands can see. We so miss that because we haven't got anybody else like that in the team. We've got Dom, who, again, when balls are coming into him and when he's given the opportunities and when he's helped out, is a brilliant striker, fantastic target man. Doesn't do it enough on his own, and that's fair enough because he will improve on that. We've got Richarlison, who can turn anything, a non-situation into a goal, but hasn't really been on form recently. Take them two away. Who do we have in this Everton squad other than James Rodriguez that can completely change a game or knock a game on its head? I remember the game against West Brom, and it was against West Brom in the Premier League, and you might say, you can't compare that to Man United, but it was against West Brom. I think it was 1-1. We hadn't had a great first half whatsoever. They'd just had a man sent off. James Rodriguez picks the ball up at the edge outside of the box, turns, hits it bottom left-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner, whichever it was. We go in half-time, 2-1 up. We then come out the second half and absolutely blather them. They scored straight away from a free kick, but other than that, absolutely blather them. It's those moments of magic that you need, especially in games like yesterday when you're not going to have many of them. And ultimately, we missed that. We really, really did miss that. So we go in at half-time, 0-0. Again, weathered the storm for the first 25 minutes. Got a lot better, but it still was... The players still seemed like they were worried. There seemed like there was a lot of nerves, a lot of anxiety, and we weren't really stopping this Manchester United side. Anyway, let's get into the live comments then before we go into talking about the second half. If you're not enjoying the stream, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel as well, don't forget to subscribe. Really, really do appreciate all of the support. Of course, got loads of videos, loads of content coming up over the next couple of days or so. We'll have the game preview to the Sheffield United game out later. We'll have the weekly news roundup up tomorrow, Christmas Day. If you're bored, if you're going upstairs for a little nap after you've had your turkey dinner, last the weekly news roundup, but we've got a little Merry Christmas video going up tomorrow as well. So loads of content over the next couple of days or so. Tom says, I understand people not thinking Anthony Gordon would make a difference, but I generally think the lad is the real deal, and if given the chance, he would deliver. He has skill, pace, and is direct. And ultimately, look, that's one of the more frustrating things at the moment, is that if Anthony Gordon had been given his fair share of opportunities, let's per se, and he hadn't done anything with them, then we could literally sit here now and say, right, okay, it's evidently clear this squad isn't good enough, it needs to be improved, done and dusted, really. And we can still say that now, because one player not having a chance doesn't change the fact that the squad isn't good enough. If Anthony Gordon was brilliant, it wouldn't really have much of an impact on the fact that Andre Gomez isn't good enough, or Bernard isn't good enough. But that's a really frustrating, ultimately a frustrating situation, is that we've got somebody like an Anthony Gordon who, again, is very raw talent, pace, energy, effort, fight, wants to get involved, and we don't really know what he could do or how he could change this team, because he hasn't been given that opportunity. No, I'm not going to go in and start criticising Carlo Ancelotti about the Anthony Gordon situation, because, to be quite frankly to all of you, I'm bored. I'm bored of talking about Gordon. I'm bored of talking about Nkunku, because it doesn't matter how much we talk about him. There's a very, very clear reason as to why Carlo Ancelotti doesn't want those two lads starting games of football. Whether that's because he doesn't trust them, because they're inexperienced, whether that's because they're not doing it in training, whether that's because he believes that the players that are coming in are better suited than them. I don't know how, because what are they doing? The likes of your Bernards and your Gomez's and your, anybody else that's tossing, anybody else that's coming off the bench, what are they doing to prove that they can have more of an impact than Anthony Gordon? But that's a worry, in the fact that Carlo Ancelotti doesn't think that Anthony Gordon can perform better than those players. That is a worry. And again, like I said, I've spoke so much about it in recent weeks, and I'm so bored of talking about it, because it's not going to change at the moment. But it is disappointing, because it's always in the back of your mind as well, what if Anthony Gordon had come on at half-time against Manchester United? Would he have changed the game? Would he have added that little bit more pace and directness that would have, made Manchester United flap a little bit and then turn the game on its head? We don't know, do we? Liam says, hey Cam, love the vids. Hope you and your family have a wonderful Christmas. That was an awful performance yesterday. It was poor how Bruno and Cavani weren't sent off. I'll never know. Thank you very much, mate. I hope you have a fantastic, fantastic Christmas as well. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas. Look, we're going to try and add some positivity in the end of the stream as well, because it is Christmas. And like I said before, it's been a dreadful, dreadful year. And I don't want to sit here on Christmas Eve talking about how shite Everton are. Even though we were a bit shite. Look, on the Bruno Fernandes and Cavani situation, it's disgraceful. I said it yesterday, I said it in the instant match reaction, I said Bruno Fernandes is a horrible, horrible player, and I got comments from Man United fans saying, oh, you just said Bruno Fernandes is an awful player, you don't know anything. Well, I didn't say Bruno Fernandes is an awful player, did I? I said he's a horrible player. He's a fantastic footballer. He does everything you'd want in a midfielder. He creates goals, he scores goals, he consoles games, he's snide. But I just think that challenge on Richarlison was so it was just on purpose. He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he's endangered the player there. As well as the little kicks. I just don't like him. And that's my personal opinion. And you might say, oh, that's jealous because you'd have him in Everton's team. And that's the wonderful thing about football, isn't it? The wonderful thing about football is that you can love a player so much because he wears your colours. But if he played for another team, you'd absolutely despise him. You can hate a player who plays for another team, but happily sit in and say, I'd want that player in my team because he brings everything that we need. And Bruno Fernandes would be brilliant in this Everton team, but I just don't like him as a player whatsoever. But one thing, again, I'm not going to go too far into it because it's nothing to do with the game, but one thing that does really grind me gears in those situations is football fans are fine. Look, I'm fine with Man United fans coming on the comments and saying, oh, you're talking shite, he's a great player, this, that, the other. I'm fine with that because he's their player, they've got an emotional connection to the club, they're a fan, that's fine. I'm fine with me coming on and talking about how brilliant Richarlison is and some other fans saying they don't like him. That's brilliant, that's fine. We're all fans, and ultimately we, have an emotional connection to these players. What I'm not fine with is the media. People like Gary Neville, who is a diehard Manchester United fan, and it's basically Man U fan TV when Gary Neville's commentating on United, because he's just so blatantly biased that it's unbelievable. When you've got people like him laughing when Richarlison goes down injured and not really saying anything about the awful challenge by Bruno Fernandes. If that was Yerry Mina on Bruno Fernandes, by the way, Gary Neville would still be talking about it now. Sky Sports would still be running reports on it now. These people are paid a lot of money to be neutral. I know Gary Neville is a diehard Manchester United fan, and you might say, well, you're stupid for thinking that he's going to be unbiased when he's a diehard Man United fan. I'm not stupid, because he's put there to provide an unbiased opinion. Otherwise, why isn't the Everton commentator sat next to him, having it off with him, saying, hang on, no, how can you let that slide? That's an awful challenge. Why is it just a Man United commentator? He has paid an awful lot of money to provide an unbiased opinion on a game of football. The fact that whenever it happens to Everton players, whenever Richarlison gets clattered, by the way, just get swept under the carpet. But I bet you in 2 weeks, Richarlison will go down after getting a little kick and they'll say, I've never seen a player go down as much in my life. It's disgraceful. And again, the commentary yesterday was awful, but you know my feelings towards Sky Sports. Bruno says we need more energy and Gomez has to go. Yeah, look, again, I do feel for Andre Gomez, because I don't like sitting here just having a go at a player. I don't like sitting here just ripping into a player pretty much every single week, saying, oh, he's not good enough, this, that, the other. Andre Gomez would probably be bossing the Italian league or somewhere like that, where it's dead slow, it's dead calm, it's dead easy to play, you don't get much pressure on you. The reality of the situation is, in the Premier League, he's not quick enough, he doesn't turn quick enough, he doesn't get involved when he hasn't got the ball, his off-the-ball work is non-existent, and that's fine if you've got Alan and Decore next to him who do that work, and he doesn't really need to do that work. But when you take somebody out in Alan, who is so involved off the ball and getting involved and throwing himself in and is that pitbull in the midfield, and you replace him with Andre Gomez, you can see the clear, the clear difference. Kev says we're miles off matching them. Cavani, are you kidding? He also says, have we even got another striker in case the worst happens? No, we haven't. Not a decent one anyway. Jason says, hey Cam, Merry Christmas to all Everton fans. It was like we played. Thank you very much, mate. Hope you have a fantastic Christmas as well. Bruno says, yes, Kev, he's banging them in for PSG again. Yeah, PSG tweeted yesterday. Literally, I just got onto Twitter. About. I'd just done the instant match reaction. I hadn't checked Twitter. I'd just done the instant match reaction. And I just got onto Twitter. And the first tweet I seen was from PSG. And it was our 2 goal scorers this evening. At Moise Keane, at Azizagana Guy. And I was just like, I'm going to bed, me. I am absolutely going to bed. Tom says, again, Sheffield United go 4-2-3-1. Pickford, Coleman, Mina, Keane, Godfrey, Holgate, CM, Decore, James, Iwobi, Gordon and Richarlison give DCL a breather. Potentially, mate. Potentially. Depends if Richarlison's fit. Jason says, happy Christmas, Cam. Happy Christmas, everybody. That means do the same sentence twice. No worries. Just says, James hasn't been right since the derby. We don't moan about it, unlike Liverpool and the press who still are on about Van Dijk. Yeah. They're still going on about Van Dijk, aren't they? It's mad. It's been about 300 years. Anyway, we will get back into the live comments shortly. Let's get back into talking about the game then. Again, first half, not great, but you're thinking, right, okay, maybe this is just the luck that we need. Maybe we're going to ride our luck and grab the winner in a game that we don't really deserve. Should we have been 1-0 down, maybe 2-0 down at half-time? Probably, because they had a plethora of chances, but ultimately they didn't take their chances, and we got very lucky at times that they didn't take their chances, because defensively we were very, very poor at times in that first half. Like I said, we grew into the game, we got better, we started to control the ball a little bit more, but we had nothing really going forward. So we come out in the second half, and again, it's very much of the same, really. We're working hard. I feel like we were better in the second half, certainly at defensively and keeping them out. We didn't allow them, as much space. We didn't allow them as much time to get in behind us. I feel like we were a lot better with that, but we still didn't have anything really going forward. We were still creating 2, 3, 4 half chances, but nothing solid that you really looked at and went, right, okay, we're going to go on and score here. Again, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has a couple where he's running towards goal and the ball gets stuck between his feet. Richarlison had one where, Richarlison had a couple, actually 2 or 3, where he's trying to cut in on that right foot like he did against Leicester, and he just can't quite get it. He's either running into a defender or he runs it out, and he just can't quite get the space. And you can see he's trying to angle himself for the shot, but he just can't find it. And I said it yesterday, and look, it's not an excuse, and I'm not going to give it an excuse. But Man United, once they realised that first 15, 20 minutes didn't work for them, and they couldn't just get at us and they couldn't beat us in the opening 10 minutes like they did with Leeds. They got dirty. They started to kick. They started to throw the slight challenges in. They started to get frustrated. And on a Premier League on a Premier League game, on a normal day, Cavani sees red for that challenge on Yerry Mina, doesn't score the winning goal. Bruno Fernandes probably sees at least a yellow card for the Richarlison situation, and then probably a yellow card at some point throughout the game where he's kicking players. And it's a different outcome to the game. Is that an excuse as to why we didn't win? Absolutely not. We weren't good enough. Our squad isn't good enough. The performance wasn't good enough. We weren't good enough yesterday. No excuse, but I refuse to sit here having watched that refereeing performance yesterday and that lack of any sort of control of the game. Madley, I can't remember his first name. He had no control whatsoever over that game of football yesterday. Andy Madley, it is. No control whatsoever. And I don't like this whole, you can't mention the referee because then you're automatically using an excuse. I'm not using an excuse. We were poor yesterday. We didn't deserve to win. The referee and Manchester United being dirty had nothing to do with the opening 25 minutes when we were woeful. It had nothing to do with the fact that we couldn't create or we couldn't convert the chance that we created in the second half or when we had them. Nothing to do with that. However, I'm talking about it. I'm absolutely talking about it because I think the refereeing level yesterday was shocking. And I said it in the instant match reaction. I do not understand. What's the point in VAR or what's the point in the Carabao Cup? How can you have a domestic cup competition and say we're not going to use that new brilliant shiny technology that we've brought in this competition? Why is that? Is it because they want to make it more like football was 5 or 10 years ago and more human error, blah, blah, blah? If that's the case, scrap VAR completely. You can't say we'll have one competition a year where it's like a FIFA mode, innit? It's like when you're playing FIFA and you've got the normal, and then you know there's a special game mode where it's like heads and volleys or something, or classic rules or street rules where you can just slide in and make any challenge. It's like that's what the FA and the Football Association are doing. It's like they're saying, right, okay, VAR's in the FA Cup, it's in the Premier League, but you can have the Carabao Cup like classic football with no VAR and all that. It's bollocks. It's utter bollocks. And I understand that it started because the lower league clubs can't facilitate it and this, that and the other. And I understand that. I really, really do understand that. However, for me, there's no reason as to why VAR shouldn't be in that game yesterday. That is a game between two Premier League sides. Two sides that use VAR on a daily basis. Not daily basis, weekly basis in the Premier League. There's no excuse for it to not be used. And ultimately, it's not if, but, or maybe. I've seen a couple of tweets from different journalists yesterday. Would Cavani have been sent off? It's not a would. He absolutely would have been sent off. He puts his arms to another player's throat. Did Yerry Mina have a little bit of a tussle with him and maybe get involved? Yeah, probably did have a little bit of a tussle and maybe get involved. But Cavani absolutely sees red with VAR for that. Xhaka seen red for it in the Arsenal game a few weeks ago. Cavani absolutely gets sent off for that. There's no discussion. It's not even up for debate. He gets sent off for it and he doesn't score the winning goal. I know they scored the second, but ultimately the winning goal at the end of the game. And it just baffles me. And to be honest, it makes a shambles of the competition, and it makes a shambles out of VAR if they're just going to not use it in some games, use it in other games, drop it when they want to drop it, because then you get situations like that happening where players are getting away with that. And Andy Madley can come out and say all he likes about he didn't see it. There's clear photographic evidence that he is looking at the situation as it happens, and he doesn't do anything about it whatsoever. I just give up. And again, it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse because we weren't good enough regardless of the referee or VAR yesterday. But what's the point? He'd have been sent off and he wouldn't have been in the position to score. If Rashford had come on and he'd have scored the goal, then you can't say anything. But it's just typical Everton, isn't it? A player that should have left the pitch, stays on the pitch wrongly and scores the winning goal. I just give up. I give up with it. I gave up with the Carabao Cup at that point, to be honest. I thought I'd give up with this. Because you know what? If that wouldn't have happened yesterday, let's say we'd have beaten Manchester United yesterday, and Cavani wouldn't have scored the goal, and we'd have scored the winning or whatever, and he'd have got away with that. Doesn't matter, because in the game against Man City in the semi-final, Did there been another situation like there was 4 years ago when Raheem Sterling runs the ball 5 yards over the line, but the referee carries it on because there's no VAR, or there's an offside decision because there's no VAR? We were always going to get done by it, and ultimately, I just don't see the point in having VAR in any competition if you're going to say, right, okay, big quarter-final here against 2 Premier League giants, we won't use it. What's the point in having it at all? Then you may as well just not use it ever, or you may as well just scrap the Carabao Cup. Because it really, really frustrates me. We will go on to talking about the Bruno Fernandes situation in a moment as well. Jason says, surely they could have found a way to get VAR feed from Brentford and the Bet365. Well, look, again, I think their argument is we can't have it with the lower league clubs because they can't facilitate it, and we don't want to have it with the high-end clubs because, or I say the high-end clubs, the Premier League clubs, or the clubs in the top division, because then if we've got it in one of those games and we haven't got it in a lower league game and there's a situation in the lower league game, then they'll say, well, why haven't we got VAR, blah, blah, blah. I get that. So why not say, right, okay, for the first 2 or 3 rounds of the competition, we won't have VAR. But when it gets to the quarters, or the round of 16, whatever, we'll have VAR. Because look at the games played yesterday. Tottenham, the teams left in the competition prior to this week: Man United, Everton, Tottenham, Man City, Arsenal. They could all have VAR. Newcastle, they could all have VAR because they play in the Premier League with it every year. Brentford and Stoke, 2 championship teams. The Bet365 stadium, ex-Premier League stadium, massive stadium, can facilitate VAR very easily. Brentford Stadium, I'm sure, can facilitate VAR very, very easily. It's just an excuse. It's just a nonsense. Christopher says, how do you think Olsen played? Shaky, to be honest with you, mate. Shaky. He wasn't at fault for either of the goals, to be fair, and he done okay, I suppose. But at the start of the game, he was very, very shaky. He had the moment with Cavani, which again was he was lucky to get away with that one. And there was another couple of... I think his distribution yesterday was poor, to be honest. There was too many times that he just hit it right out of Goodison Park, and that's not good enough. Jason says, you can guarantee it would have been an away semi. Exactly, mate. Philip says, what about Ollie sniggering and smirking at Carlo while Richie was lying on the floor, barely conscious? Yeah, again, I don't want to go too into that because, again, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, to be fair, seems like an alright bloke. And maybe he was smiling at something else and not necessarily smiling at the Richarlison situation. So I don't want to read too much into that. But if he is smiling at the Richarlison situation, it's a disgrace. In the same way as that Eric Bailly is a disgrace for tweeting out Instagramming a picture of Richarlison getting his head clattered into when he knows full well that it could have ended in a serious injury. Leanne says, love my football regardless of what rivals. That's why I tune in. But it's so salty that you mentioned Liverpool at least once a stream. You played Manchester United, not Liverpool. The 2 clubs aren't comparable. I actually mentioned Liverpool to give them praise and say that their squad is good enough to be able to chop and change players, whereas ours isn't. I didn't mention Liverpool to be salty. Maybe I mentioned Jurgen Klopp as to say he moans constantly, and he does. And again, the Van Dijk situation is directly comparable because James Rodriguez got injured in that game as well, and nobody talks about it, and he still isn't fit to this day. So, there you go. Louis says, seen loads of people going on about how the referees were against us, which is true, but we have to admit we were shite. United controlled the game and we barely got near the ball. Spot on, Louis. Couldn't agree more, mate. Absolutely couldn't agree more. Again, that's why I say, whenever I'll talk about the referee, it's not an excuse. We were awful yesterday. We didn't lose that game because of Andy Madley or VAR. We lost that game because we weren't good enough. I just think we weren't helped by those two. Evan Botch says, hey guys. Philip says, hey. Evan Botch says, Liam says, would you take Garner back? Because I've always wanted to see Alan and Garner and Decore in the midfield. Problem is with that is there's no real attacking player in that midfield who acts as that, sort of link between the midfield and the attack. But yeah, I'd take Garner back probably, but I don't know. He cost a lot of money and wages and stuff. Bobby Mac mate says, talking facts, congrats on the channel growth. I remember when I first subbed, you only had 200 subs. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate that. I know there's a lot of people who have been here from near enough to start, so I really, really do appreciate all your support. And anybody that's only just recently joined us, thank you all very, very much as well. If you are enjoying the stream so far, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. It only does take a second. Share the stream as well. Let's try and get as many people involved as possible. Try and get as many people subscribed as possible as well. Anyway, like I said, second half, they continue to, throw challenges in. be a little bit mischievous, and we're holding our own, really. We weren't brilliant, but we were holding our own. We were a lot more organised, and we were getting forward. And again, what's the most disappointing thing for me yesterday is the fact that we were awful in the first 25 minutes, or the fact that when we did start to get into the game, we didn't do anything with the ball that we had. Seamus Coleman has an opportunity where he does all of the hard work. He beats Alex Telles down that right-hand side. He literally sprints, gets to the edge of the box, passes it to Dominic Calvert-Lewin in an offside position. I don't want to start criticising Seamus because it was his first game back. I know he come off the bench on the weekend. It was his first game back. He's had a tough injury, and, I'm sure he just thought that the pass was a better chance. But you've done all the hard work there. You've ran, you've beaten your man, you've gotten forward. Why aren't you just wrapping your foot around that? If it goes into row Z, it goes into row Z. At least you can say you've had a go. Seamus Coleman of 5 or 6 years ago wraps his foot around that. And most of the time it goes in. But if it doesn't go in, you say, you know what, it's right, Seamus, you've had a chance there, you've had a go, you've had an opportunity. Why isn't he wrapping his foot around that? Gylfi Sigurdsson's screaming for the ball, but he doesn't pass to him. He goes to the offside, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Situations like that, Richarlison, before he goes off, had a couple where he's trying to cut inside and he can't quite get in. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a couple where the ball gets stuck beneath his feet. But ultimately, all of these, I wouldn't even say half chances, quarter chances, didn't even lead to Dean Henderson making a save or being troubled whatsoever. And that's why we lack so much creativity in this Everton side. And then a big turning point in the game, again, not saying it changed the game, not saying we'd have won with him on the pitch, but a big turning point was the Richarlison situation. Bruno Fernandes nudges Richarlison into Eric Bailly's knee, completely knocks him out. He's pretty much unconscious on the floor. He's spitting blood. He wants to stay on. He tries to force himself to stay on. But Carlo Ancelotti confirmed after the game that it was the doctors who said, no, he can't stay on. He needs to come off. It was a concussion. And that's the right decision, ultimately, because it could have gone very, very bad for Richarlison if he would have stayed on and, got hurt again. Again, Bruno Fernandes escaped with nothing for that challenge. I said it was a sending off. You might disagree. I think it's a yellow at the absolute least. But for me, he knows what he's doing there. He knows exactly what he's doing. He budges a player into another player's oncoming knee, knowing full well that he's going to endanger that player. Again, you might think it was as premeditated as that, but personally I do. And I don't like Bruno Fernandes. I'm going to say it now. I'm not here to sit on the fence. I'm an Everton fan. And if you don't play for Everton, you've got a good chance that I don't like it. And I really don't like Bruno Fernandes. I think he's snide. Would I have him at Everton? Probably, yeah. Like I said earlier, that's the beauty of football. You can hate players and say, I'd love him at Everton. You can absolutely do that. But I just don't like Bruno Fernandes. I think he's snide. I think he's horrible. Is it a bit of jealousy? Maybe. Because he's a bloody good footballer. But I just don't like him whatsoever. Louis says the team just showed us how important Alan is to our team. Exactly, yeah. And then, like I said, Richarlison went off. And, ultimately from that point on, not like we had any real chance in the game anyway, or we were in the game anyway. But ultimately, we continued. We brought Bernard on. We've done very, very little. We brought Cenk Tosun on. We've done very, very little. Davis come on and didn't have an effect on the game. And then, ultimately, the inevitable happened. 5 minutes before the final whistle, we're holding on. We're not really looking like we're doing anything, but there's always that half chance that we could get forward and create something. But it looked more and more likely it was going to go to penalties. Again, ball comes directly from Harry Maguire, not challenged whatsoever, all the way through the midfield, completely bypasses the midfield into Anthony Martial, again, not challenged, gets it to Edison Cavani, who has a shot, and it's just Everton's luck. The lad who shouldn't be anywhere near the pitch scores the winning goal, and again, from that point on, it was game over. It was absolutely game over from that point on. Ball goes in, awful defending. Yerry Mina turns his back for some reason. Again, how he's allowed to just walk straight through the midfield is beyond me. Cavani scores, and that's it. It's game, set, and match. We then went full throttle for 5 minutes. They come up the other end. Rashford had one chance that he probably should have scored, and then Martial finishes it off at the end of the game by slotting it past Olsen, and ultimately we crash out of the Carabao Cup with a 2-0 defeat. And again, in quite similar fashion to the defeat against Manchester United at Goodison Park, really, they scored again a consolation goal in the last moment. Well, not a consolation goal. They scored a another goal in the last moments, even when the game was completely killed off because we were going for it, and they hit us on the counter-attack, which was our game plan all day, and, we couldn't complete that game plan, and ultimately, like I said at the start of the stream, for me, we lacked James' creativity, we lacked Alan's ruthlessness in the midfield, and we just lack any real squad depth or squad quality, because, again, Manchester United were allowed to make, or not were allowed, Manchester United made 9 changes to their starting 11 and still come out playing the exact same style of football, still look very dangerous, and still had Martial and Rashford to come off the bench. We made 3 changes, looked completely inept, looked completely opposite to the way we've been playing, and our changes are just, like I said, they just make you want to rub your head together. But let's talk about some positives. Let's talk about some positives because it's Christmas Eve and I refuse to sit here and make a dull live stream. Let's talk about some positives. Leanne says, tune into any Liverpool content we mention. Everton when derbies come up, we are glad you're doing well as long as we finish above you. If you had the best centre-back in the world, get finished, you would feel this gutted too. Well, that's fair enough, Leanne. I know that there's a lot of Liverpool fans that mention Everton in pretty much every video they do. I've got Liverpool mates who can't have a conversation without mentioning Everton. But, you know what, that's fair enough, and whatever floats your boat. Liam says, where do you think Kabam will fit into the squad if every player is fit? I don't know, to be honest with you. Probably on the bench. If every player is fit, probably on the bench. Maybe in a midfield next to Alan and Decore. But I don't know. It seems a long way, even though Carlo said he's doing well and his recovery is doing well and this, that, the other, it still just seems a long way away from Gabam being back in the 17 team. It just seems like it's going to be ages away. But anyway, let's talk some positives for once. We've got a big chance to bounce back against Sheffield United. If we beat Sheffield United, we're 4 out of 4 in the Premier League in December, and we go touching distance within the top 2, even top of the league. If Liverpool drop points against Big Sam's West Brom, we go 2 points away from top of the league. We can continue to be in and around that top 4. We're on the same points as Manchester United in the league. You wouldn't think it looking at yesterday. Where I think we're a point above Tottenham. So we absolutely have to bounce back. And it's not the end of the world. It was an awful performance. It was an awful result. And it showed that we haven't got a good enough squad. And we need to improve our squad. And ultimately, we need at least 1 or 2 players on the bench every week that you look at and you think you can come on and change a game. I know modern day footballers don't necessarily like coming to clubs knowing that they're not going to start every week, but we need to find some way to make that happen. But we're still in decent form in the league. It wasn't a league game. We've won 3 out of 3. For me, against Sheffield United, not going to give too much away. We will have the preview up a little bit later on. But for me, you revert back to the same back line. Holgate comes in at right back. Godfrey comes in at left back. Mina and Keane at centre half. I know you may move Holgate into midfield and have Coleman at right back, but I don't think Carlo will do that. Who comes in the midfield? Probably Davis, let's be honest, from the off. And you just hope that Richarlison and ultimately, it's gone blank, James Rodriguez are fit for this game. But it's not the end of the world. We're top 4 in the Premier League. Again, we can beat Sheffield United, which we should beat Sheffield United, by the way. Not saying it's going to be an easy game. They're desperate for the win. They've been awful all season, but we should have more than enough to go out and beat that Sheffield United side comfortably. We do that, the confidence comes back up, and we can sort of put this game behind us. Even though it is audible, because we need to be winning trophies, we can put it behind us. Couple of positive players performance-wise yesterday. Thought Gylfi Sigurdsson was very good. Got a lot of stick. I don't know why he got a lot of stick. I think it's just because when we lose, people like to go straight for Gylfi Sigurdsson's throat. Thought he done really well yesterday. He worked hard. He was the only player that looked like creating anything for Everton. He was getting forward. He was throwing tackles in. He was winning the ball in the last 10 or 15 minutes. He was pushing the team forward. Thought he played really well yesterday. Alex Iwobi, again, needs to improve on his final ball, which we say every single week. But work rate-wise, again, getting the ball on the wing, cutting into the midfield, using his strength, using his pace, using his power. Again, I thought he's looked very, very good in recent weeks, and he did yesterday, to be fair. Does he have an output that James has? Absolutely not, and that's why we so desperately need James in the team. But he's been much, much better than he had been for the previous 12 months, and he's playing with confidence, and you can see that. Same with Gylfi Sigurdsson, who I thought had a very, very good game. And yeah, like I said, let's just not beat ourselves up too much about it. It's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day tomorrow. Big chance to bounce back against Sheffield United on Boxing Day. If we do, then we're still flying in the Premier League, and we can sort of focus our priorities on that then, and then obviously the FA Cup in early January. But you know what? Other than refereeing decisions and lack of VAR, can't really complain about that yesterday. We were beaten by the better team, we were beaten by the better squad, and we have to just pick ourselves up and move on. Like I said, it's not the end of the world. We did show a bit of fight. It wasn't the worst performance in terms of certainly when we got back into the game, but you know, it really, really, really showed that how difficult it's going to be for this Everton team when you lose key players and when you have to take players out to give them a rest. It's going to be very, very difficult to win any game of football because we just don't have that like-for-like quality to replace them with. But you know what? It's Christmas Day tomorrow. Let's have some high spirits. I'm going to try and make the preview to the Sheffield United game as positive as possible. And like I said, let's try and be in high spirits at least. Big thanks for watching. Let's get into some comments before we finish up. Louis says, do you reckon James will be back for Sheffield United or not? I don't know, mate. I don't know. I thought he'd be back for the Man United game, but obviously not. Philip says, if that was us, the death threats will be flooding in. As far as we know, Richie isn't too bad. He could have well suffered a very serious injury. Exactly, mate. Exactly. Dark Art says, having Rodriguez in is with the slight loss of defensiveness, creativity going forward. I think he needs to play in the 10 with Iwobi and Richie either side because they are both decent stacking back. Fair point, mate. Fair point. Could work. And we haven't seen that yet, and we've been crying out to see that. Jamie Carragher, which I assume you're not the real Jamie Carragher, says, thoughts on PSG appointing Pochettino? Have they appointed him? I believe it says PSG, Pochettino in talks to return to PSG. Yeah. Probably a decent appointment for them, to be honest with you, and he needs a job. So, Kev says, me too, it's not like we have spent money or made a massive wage rise, just badly conducted business. Jamie Carragher says, Tuchel has been sacked by PSG, Pochettino said to become the new manager. Fair enough. Kev says, I've seen Everton win the league and other trophies. The way the money has been spent on bang average players is horrendous. Can't disagree with that, mate. Jab says, I agree, Kev. I want these gone in January. Davis, Kenny, Tosson, Coleman, Bernard and Gomez. Kenny, not Keeney. Jab says, as soon as I saw our bench, my heart sank. Well, exactly. And you know, you know every week, even when we're playing well, you know, we can't look at the bench here because it's awful. Jab says, Crystal Palace scored 7 past them. They are a dirty club backed by referees. Kev says, I think we're forgetting that Manchester United are a huge club. PLC, we're miles apart. Yo says, attack players with European football of top 6. There you go. There you go. Anyway, we're going to finish it up there. Then if you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Not a great result, not a great performance, but you know what? We bounced back. At least it wasn't in the league, and hopefully we can bounce back with a win against the side that we absolutely should be beating. Won't be easy, but we absolutely should be beating, and then, you know, get some confidence back and continue with our good league form. If you've enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. We'll be back a little bit later on. It won't be live, it'll be a video, but it will be the game preview to the game against Sheffield United on Boxing Day on Saturday. We'll have a weekly news roundup video up tomorrow as well for you to enjoy on Christmas Day, and a nice little Christmas video as well. But anyway, big thanks for watching. I won't speak to you live now until after Christmas, so have a wonderful Christmas, everybody. Look, it's been a shocking year, a dreadful year for all of us, and Christmas Day is one of the only days in the year where everybody just has this little bit of boost in positivity and this little boost in morale. So let's have that boost in morale. Yes, Everton was shite yesterday, but did we expect anything different? Did we expect anything different? Let's be honest. Have a fantastic, wonderful Christmas for everybody watching live. Big thanks for watching live. We have a great Christmas. Everybody watching in the comments, again, massive thanks for watching. I hope you and your families have a wonderful Christmas. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe. Don't get too drunk. Or get dead drunk. It's been a shit year. Get dead drunk. Eat loads of turkey. And yeah, have a wonderful Christmas. Like I said, loads more content coming before that, but it won't be live. So just wanted to say a big thanks for all of the support over the last 12 months or so. It's been truly, it's just been amazing, really, absolutely amazing. So massive thanks for all of it. And yeah, enjoy your Christmas Day, enjoy your Christmas Eve as well. I know a lot of people love Christmas Eve. I've got to do a few more videos and then an awful lot of rapping to do, so I'll thoroughly enjoy that. But yeah, have a great Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas Day. Enjoy yourself. Let's be positive. And yeah, even though we were crap, let's be a little bit positive. Dave says, sorry, Cam, but the better cheats won. Cavani should have been off and Bruno should be in jail. Well, there you go. They did cheat, to be fair. And Eugene says, Merry Christmas, up the toffees. Up the toffees, indeed. Listen, it's not the end of the world. It's just very disappointing. Big thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed, please do hit that like button. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments. If you're watching this YouTube video, leave your comments in the comment section down below. Big thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you want new. And we'll see you soon on The Mighty Blues.